What's going on, guys? Today we're back working on the C33 Laurel. Today we're going to be chucking in the fresh angle kit that we've not long ago had made up. Initially it was for the giveaway Saphiro, but now it's going into the Laurel. Just like the turbo and manifold that we put on the motor the other day. I'm about to jack it up, remove all the old stuff, get the wheels off, knuckles, lower arms, subframe out, and then we've got this stuff all to go in. We've had this subframe modified, where the steering rack mounts to has been shifted 30mm forward to eliminate a lot of the steering bind that you get when you run bigger angle. We've got these cut and shut knuckles with the point where the tie rod connects to has been shifted down and inward. And then we've got our lower control arms that have been extended 30mm. Got the front subframe and all the steering components out of the Laurel. I took it out all just as one unit to make it nice and easy, but chucking it back in. We will put all of this stuff in bit by bit. First up is our modified subframe. I did touch on this a little bit before, but the main reason why the steering rack gets shifted forward on Nissan steering racks is Nissans have steering bind at big angle. That means when you go to full lock, or a lot of the times not even to full lock, when you're trying to turn the wheel back the other way, the steering can bind up and it's horrible to drive with. I used to deal with that a little bit in my 25 Det Saphiro when I was first learning to drift a Kaikoura. I'd get onto full lock and it was just completely all standard stuff, but it would get to lock and actually trying to bring the wheel back and turn it the other way, it would just get binded up and it would make it real shit to drive with. What timing of Anthony was just going to put the subframe in and he turns up from work to give us a hand.
I'm going home.
Subframe's in, now we're gonna put these lower arms in. These have been extended by 30mm. The reason why you do that is so you get more camber in the front without having to adjust the camber from the top hat. The reason why you want camber in drifting is when the wheels are turning over at full lock, the inside wheel kind of sort of like falls over on itself. So when you got more camber, it actually ends up falling over and becomes flat when it's at angle to give yourself better grip and better steering feel because it's actually contacting the road more.
The bolt doesn't fit.
You were doing it the right way.
Oh.
Yeah, these bolts can only go one way. Next up we've got the knuckles. These have been modified so the tie rod point mounts to here. This has been moved down and inward. The reason it gets moved inward is so you get quicker steering and it also allows for more angle. And the reason why it's moved down is because the steering geometry of arms is designed for the arm to be pointing downward. And when you lower a car, the arm sort of comes up and becomes flat. So when this gets moved down, it actually moves the arm closer back to its factory geometry.
This is still a weird look. You with no facial hair.
I haven't even like mentioned it in a video. Like, I just haven't talked about it, but yeah. I got rid of my facial hair the other night.
Joel and alcohol and clippers don't mix. Easiest way to put it.
Nah, it's alright. Had to be done. Drop my nuts. Now we've got all that stuff in, we're going to chuck the steering rack in. We are going to be upgrading the tie rods, and this boot is a bit cooked as well. So might try and see if we can get a new one of those. To get the old tie rods off, we actually got to put it into the subframe and tighten it down, because these require quite a bit of force to get them loose, and we tried before and it failed.
Yeah. Like your cut G.
I'm starting to get really mad at the egg shortage. Really, really mad. It's not excellent.
Hello. Tough as G. Hoi! Don't even need me for none of this.
Nah, mate. So we got the old tie rods out of the steering rack and we are replacing it with this A32 Saphiro tie rod. Because we have 30mm extended lower arms and the base of the knuckle is now further out, we need to have an extended tie rod or an aftermarket outer tie rod. So we're opting to run the standard outer tie rods and upgrade these inner ones to, as I said, A32.
If you're extra cool like Joel, you can run both.
Yeah. So we've been having a bit of trouble getting these rack ends out of the tie rods. Yeah, chucked it in the vise, Anthony cranked on it, and it's even just starting to spin the whole tie rod in the vise. But yeah, she ain't budging, so.
I could not crank that soldier boy. Just Sam would be proud.
Did that loosen?
I believe.
Yes.
That did. Tough as.
It's probably a bit hot.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Alright, we'll put that aside, let it cool down, and we'll try and crack the other one. Now that we've finally got our rack ends out of the old tie rods, I'm going to chuck them onto our new A32 ones. I think you probably should change these at some point because these ball joints are not to the best. I think the other side's actually fine, but this one's has seen better days.
She'll be mint. What do you need ball joints for? As long as you can get them nut tight, they work.
So that's the ankle kit pretty much all installed now. Adaki's going to have to get some new rake boots because both of the ones that were on this rack were cooked. So now we're just going to chuck the brakes back on, chuck the wheels on, put it back on the ground, have a look at, see what the alignment's doing, and we'll just play around with it a little bit. It is going to have to go on an alignment rack before he goes to the track, but we'll get it as best as we can so it's easy to drive around and it's not going to do weird things. Before we go chucking the hubs and brakes on, we've got to fix up the front hubs that were on this car. They are 4-stud hubs that have been re-drilled to suit 5-stud, and unfortunately a couple of the studs have broken off. So that one's completely free, that one's loose, that one's loose, and on the other hub over there there's like one stud that is a little bit loose. So we're going to take these hubs off and we're going to tack weld the back of the studs on the hub so they're nice and firm and yeah, can't go anywhere. We've got the hubs off, and when I was taking the driver's side one off, 3 of the studs came clean out of the hub. And by the looks of it, whoever did this did make an attempt to actually weld these studs in, but what do you reckon it is? Like no heat at all?
Yeah, well, it didn't penetrate the studs at all. Like, have a gander at this one here. That has been welded. There is nothing there. Oh, it's been grinded back though. TikTok dance.
Get out. So Anthony's going through, clean these up a little bit around the edges where he's going to tack. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip these hubs up. We're just going to chuck that in like that. Then grab a couple of washers, throw them on, grab a wheel nut, open end wheel nut, crank this up. The reason we're doing this is just so we know the stud is perfectly straight. Top tip for you guys out there, don't waste your time doing this shit. Just go and buy new hubs. Like, they're a little bit of money, but yeah. I'll chuck a link to Ash's website down below, Thrash Garage, where you can get all your 5-star conversion necessities. I've just hit this stud with the blowtorch, get some heat in it. Anthony's about to do a couple tacks, so it holds it in place. Anthony got all the studs welded into those hubs, but I went to put this side on and I realized that they are S13 hubs, S13 4 stud hubs that have been redrilled out to suit 5 stud. Because all of this knuckle, lower arm and everything came off the part Saphiro and got modified, that stuff was actually S14. And the difference is, I think S14 use about a 2 to 4 mil bigger spline, which means they use a bigger hub as well. So I went to put the hub on and it didn't fit. So we're gonna have to put the hubs that originally were going to be going on the Saphiro onto here to match all this stuff. And that means the Saphiro is gonna have to get the re-drilled 4 stud stuff, but they're sweet now. Now we're gonna put the hubs and brakes back on the other side.
Of course, the other side went on nice.
That was a moist fart.
What was that?
Power steering.
Yeah, just went all over the floor.
Should have done like an angle comparison, stock versus this.
Oh, I should have. All right, let's rip it all back out, put the stock shit back in.
Okay. Oh yeah, that sounds good. That's what good macaroni and cheese sounds like.
What, as you're eating it or after you eat it?
Bit of both.
Oh, let's put these wheels on and put it on the ground and see what it looks like.
How fast can Joel put on a wheel? Quick go. That was pretty quick. You remember?
Unlike you spending 30 seconds to get one wheel on it.
Hey, that was a while ago. I was about to say that too. Remember the first time I put those DTMs on my Laurel?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was fun.
it was painful to watch.
That was painful for me too. See if we can get this one as quick. So, oh, that's, yeah, so have a gander at this wheel and then we walk over here. Yeah, pretty much the same. Honestly, I just run it like that.
We're gonna put all the wheel nuts to this side.
No, you can use these ones sheath on them.
Right, pretty much looks sent.
Yeah, well, you can, I mean, it can't move too far.
No, you're looking for here to
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Yeah. So you want your rack to be centered so you've got the same amount of turns per side, and then you can. You should have panned the camera then.
I was listening myself. I forget.
Yeah, no, you need to how the fuck explaining that again? You guys heard
Rack needs to be centered. Same amount of turns on the wheel each side.
So it needs to go
that way a little bit.
a little bit more, a little back the other way. Oh wait, hang on, no. Go back the original way it's headed.
Alright, the rack's centered there.
I'm going to uncenter it.
So I somewhat centered the steering rack and then played around with the toe. It's not perfect, but it is going for a wheel alignment probably later this week and getting set up by the same guy that set my car up and has set half the other cars in Drift South up. I'll show you guys the angle that this thing has. You guys have seen it on my car, but yeah, that has a ton of angle now. Be way better for him on track. That looks sick. Same angle kit you'll be running, mate.
Yep. Stoked. Now he needs to try sack it and just destroy the guards.
Before we wrap this video up, I'm going to pretty much install a lot of the power steering system minus the pump. We'll wait till the motor's actually back in before we go putting the pump on. But I brought this kit a while ago originally for my drift car, but it wasn't going to show up in time for a track day, so I actually went to local shops around Christchurch, grabbed lines, fittings, stuff that I needed to get my power steering system sorted. Then I sold the system to Anthony to go into his car. but since we've put all the angle kit into Araki's car, he's not going to be able to run the standard power steering lines, because with the rack being moved forward, the stock lines end up hitting here. So he's purchased a kit off Anthony. Anthony's going to buy himself another one when he needs it, and we have it here. So comes with a high pressure line that goes onto the pump here, and then it goes into the racking here. Then we've got our low pressure line, which comes from the rack back to the reservoir, and we've got this line here that goes from the reservoir to the power steering pump. I couldn't for the life of me find the fittings that actually come with this kit that go onto the steering rack itself and the pump, so I had to go to the shop this morning and buy some new ones. We got some mismatched ones, but they'll do the trick. We've got some copper washers as well. So I'm going to put these fittings into the rack and get the lines on and just sort of hang them off to the side out of the way until we get the motor in, and then we'll hook them all up. So first we've got our high pressure fitting that just goes into the rack here. You don't need a washer on this because it actually has a seal around it which presses hard up against the inside of the rack, which seals it up. Then we take our return fitting, same thing, screw that in. Fittings are in, now it's time to attach up our high pressure and low pressure lines. I noticed that this fitting actually was able to go all the way to the end and actually touch the rack here. So that kind of tells me that it's not seating all the way back where it should do. So I decided to actually just put a copper washer in there just to make sure, well, just to hope that it doesn't leak. But if it does end up leaking, then we might have to swap this fitting out for a longer one. So yeah, first up, we're going to chuck our high pressure line on. Now we got our power steering lines in. I ran them under here and just zip tied them to the subframe to keep them in position, keep them protected from the motor twisting when it's under acceleration. So yeah, they just come up here. This one goes to the reservoir, that's the return line, and this one just comes up to sort of about here where the power steering pump is going to be, and that just goes right onto that with our fitting here. Super stoked on the progress that we're making on this. We're going to be getting the motor actually in later today. When I got the flywheel skimmed the other day, got some new cam cover seals for it. I also picked up some heat shielding for the feed line, so we'll get that on and then get the feed line on. But you guys can look forward to that in the next video, and then I think either tomorrow or the day after, this car is actually going to SAS to get a tune. It's going to be super sick. Can't wait to see Araki on track in this thing, ripping. It's going to be so stoked with more power, more angle. It's going to be quite the wee drift car. So I'm going to wrap it here, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.